What's up, Steeler Nation? We're back with another episode of everyone's favorite Steeler podcast, a sick production, Steelers Crazy. We're still in the hunt. I'm JY. This is Michael Nicastro. Sammy, let's roll it and get to it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Aaron Smith shields. Flacco, Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Yeah, so just before we jump into Steelers talk, obviously, the big news over the weekend, or should I say the tragic news, is Damar Hamlin. I think I tweeted earlier this week, I covered him, I met him numerous times as you did at Pitt. Just the greatest kid ever. Just wanted to say that. Just so involved in the Pittsburgh community, and just to see the NFL community and football world, and honestly, the entire nation just come together. It's just so frightening because you never know when you're out on that field. But we're very thankful. There's been, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just wanted to shed light and, say that, we've been praying over here at the Sick Podcast. And, it was a pleasure watching him at Pitt and just to see him involved in the community. And it's bigger than football. I'm glad the game was canceled. This is someone's life. This is someone's son. This is someone's brother that we're talking about. So just wanted to, send my thoughts and prayers. And it seems like, he's going to recover. And just wanted to get your take on that. There's really no words you can put into it because this is bigger than football. It's bigger than a game. I think that when this happened, I was sleeping and I woke up to the text and I was just in shock, honestly. It's like, 1 in 300 million, this happens to, but, thankful to the medical staff and everyone there that, saved his life. So we're still praying for you three. And Mike, if you just want to say something, before we jump into it.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. You said there are no perfect words, but I think you said everything pretty perfectly there. Honestly, there's no question it hits home a little harder when your home is his home. You said it. We grew up 20 minutes from Damar Hamlin. We both worked at Pitt. We both met Damar Hamlin. Listen, there are tragedies that happen every day in this country, things that are just absolutely awful, but it's not every day you see it kind of play out right in front of your face like we did on Monday Night Football. It was staggering, but I think ultimately there are some takeaways from this, which include the fact that he now has almost $7 million donated to his foundation. I also, like you said, want to shout out the doctors. I mean, incredible work. I mean, essentially reviving him, bringing him back to life on the field. So a lot of good has been done in the aftermath of this injury. And you said it, sounds like he's on the road to recovery, which is really all you can hope for at this point. No question, hits home. Pittsburgher, great kid, as you mentioned. And we're excited to see what the rest of his life holds for him, because he's going to bounce back and he's going to crush it. Whatever he does, whether it's in football, in life, being there with his baby brother who he's comforted for essentially his whole life, he's going to kick ass at whatever he does moving forward.
Yeah, praying for you three. Stay strong. And like I said, man, I tweeted it earlier. It's just great to see everyone, come together. It doesn't matter. This is a human that we're talking about, and I can't stress that enough, that this is bigger than football. At the end of the day. So let's move to, some Steeler news now. The Steelers win in Steeler fashion. I believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers own the Baltimore Ravens. You can say Kenny Progress has now changed to Kenny Clutch. I actually tweeted out and took some heat for it because I was just stressed, and I was like, man, there's 6 minutes left and Mike Tomlin is going to have his first losing season. And what do you know? Never count Tomlin out. So I like to, I think that I contributed to that win because I jinxed it the other way. But is this Mike Tomlin's best coaching job?
First of all, I'm going to give you big time credit. I've been waiting to do this. I haven't talked to you in a few days, not since maybe before New Year. I declared this season dead multiple times. I declared it over. They weren't going to make the
I
playoffs.
think
For what
we
it's
all
worth,
did.
they had a 0.5% chance at one point. But you always stuck to it's Mike Tomlin. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do not ever count them out until that final game is played and that, we see 0-0-0 on the score clock in week 18. You stuck with that true and through. I could pull up your tweets if anybody doesn't believe that. And I declared him dead. And I took, a little bit of heat for that when I said I declared him dead this week. And I said we all pretty much did. And people were like, no, we didn't. That was you. Well, okay. Let me find your tweets as well. But yeah, man, it's amazing that they're not dead. This team was 1-4, 2-5, and 3-7. And now all they have to do to get into the playoffs is win against the Cleveland Browns. And I think hope for a Jets victory over the Miami Dolphins. The Bills are going to beat the Patriots. There's no doubt in my mind. So
Too much motivation.
Too much. I think there's two ways it can go. Obviously, a lot of people talking about the emotion surrounding that game. And I'm not in the Bills locker room. I'm not in their bodies. I'm sure they're going through so much. But if I had to predict an outcome, I would say they play for Hamlin, play their asses off, and go out and get a win against the Patriots. So I'm waking up each day and I'm singing Jets, 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 Jets. And is it Mike Tomlin's best coaching job? Yes, I think we both can agree on that. There's so much that he's gone through. You want to talk about tragedy. A lot of people, I don't want to say have forgot, but aren't thinking enough about Dwayne Haskins still. This guy not only had a rookie quarterback, he had a tragic death of a quarterback prior to the season that impacted this team greatly, right? And so you got a rookie quarterback, you have that awful Haskins situation. You have, the record that I mentioned previously, so many things not going your way early in the season. TJ Watt gets injured. Matt Canada continues to call plays, right? Mitch Trubisky comes in against the Ravens and throws a handful of interceptions. And somehow, some way, they find a way. And I think I read somewhere that there was 1 week in Mike Tomlin's tenure where the Steelers played their last game of the season and they were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. That is absolutely unbelievable. We do take it for granted sometimes how lucky we are to have this franchise in our backyard and how lucky we are to have Mike Tomlin as a head coach. I know his playoff success has not been great lately, and he deserves a lot of heat for that for sure. But ask a lot of other teams if they would like to have a meaningful, one meaningless game in over a decade.
And that's funny that it led right into this is that I tweeted like something about the Lions being 500 and I had like all 13 Lion fans like on my Twitter just coming at me because I'm like, them being mediocre and being 500 is like winning the Super Bowl. If the Steelers do not make a deep playoff run, if the Steelers do not go to the Super Bowl every year, fans are outraged. And that's the difference between the city of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise as opposed to others.
Yeah.
And people, you can say what you want about Mike Tomlin. I totally agree with the playoff. I understand that. But look at the guy's track record. He's a top 5. You can't argue that he's not a top 5 coach. I get mad at him sometimes, but at the end of the day, I'm never betting against the guy. If there's time left on the clock, the Steelers have a chance to win.
I said it the other day too. You can't hate Matt Canada. You can't criticize the Steelers' offensive line. You can't digest the fact that TJ Watt was out for 5 weeks and hasn't been healthy all season. And then also say that Mike Tomlin has done a bad job, right? Like it's either one or the other for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you want to point to the fact that, okay, he has control over deciding if Matt Canada is there and every team has injuries, right? And things of that nature. I think that's your argument, but not many people are doing that. Everybody understands what TJ Watt means to this team. Their record is significantly better with him in it than outside of it. Everybody understands that Matt Canada is still probably not the future offensive coordinator of this team. So with those factors and with the other factors I mentioned, rookie quarterback, tragic death of Dwayne Haskins prior to the season, all of these things, and then to have your team somehow in the mix after once again starting 2-5, 3-7 in the last game is unbelievable. But Mike Tomlin seems to just always be there.
Yeah, and I know football is a game of inches, and we've been in so many close games. So if you flip like two or three of these losses, they should have been wins. And I know that's comparing apples to oranges, but at the end of the day, like this season could, we could very well be 10-6, easily.
100%. 100%.
So Kenny Pickett, let's shed some light on him a little bit. Two consecutive games that he does this. Kenny Clutch, as I call him now. He was Kenny Progress, but I think that the progress and these people kill me on the internet, man, talking about, oh, he's not. Listen, man, I'm not saying he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but if you have a good defense and a quarterback that obviously you see, you got the turnovers taken care of and he's starting to, be more comfortable. I really think that 2023 is going to be promising. If not, if even if we make the playoffs, that's what's crazy about it. We have a rookie quarterback with all the changes. It's just amazing to see. And I just don't understand the people that, get on Kenny and criticize him so much, because honestly, like for a rookie quarterback, like I think that he's doing everything that he needs to do.
Yeah, anybody who criticizes Kenny right now does it because it's stats derived. And I get that, right?
Yeah.
It's understandable. Statistics a lot of times are what make guys Hall of Famers, what makes them Pro Bowlers. But right now he's winning football games, right? He's won 3 of his last 4 games. You mentioned it, 2 game-winning drives back-to-back in absolutely critical situations because the Pittsburgh Steelers are still in the hunt playing for a playoff spot. I also want to mention that because they're winning games, the game plan has been a little different, right? He's a little bit conservative. The goal is to have the ball in his hands at the end of the game with a chance to win. Guess what? It's happened twice in a row. He's delivered twice in a row. You can't ask for much more, even though his stats aren't eye-popping, right? What would you rather take? Eye-popping stats, them trailing in games?
A win.
Or win. Right. He's managed to do that. Look at Ben Roethlisberger's first couple of seasons. His stats were not eye-popping. Yes, he had some similarities, a very good defense, a solid run game. But Kenny Pickett also didn't have those in his first few starts. Kenny Pickett had a defense without T.J. Watt that was struggling. Kenny Pickett had a run game that was still coming together. Najee Harris was banged up, and Najee looks good now. The defense is back, and Kenny looks good. There's no coincidence.
He had to be hurt. Do you think that he was hurt? Because this dude, I was like, when even I was tweeting, I'm like, start Jaylen Warren, and now I'm thinking like, man, like this dude, that he is just, he looks like, he's running downfield again. You can just tell that he has that charisma back, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I just wish it would have came earlier in the season. Yeah,
they put a plate in the
you're a running back, so yeah.
Not just that, but he credited the offensive line after the game as to how they've come together throughout the course of the season has allowed him to elevate his game. And once again, I think these two things, people hating on the offensive line for 2 years, well, it's hard to gauge a running back if you think they have an offensive line that's not very good. They had a few new pieces this year, Mason Cole, James Daniels. Yeah, it takes time to gel. Now that they're gelling, maybe you see the elite running back the Steelers saw to want to draft him in the first round. And I'll say this, last thing about Kenny Pickett, right? You said it. Everybody needs to keep remembering it. He's a freaking rookie. Last year, Trevor Lawrence, who's going to become a superstar, had 12 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. You want to talk about stats? Those are one of the worst stats in the league out of any quarterback. It's about winning football games, not turning the ball over. How about Aaron Rodgers right now? Nobody's comparing Pickett to Aaron Rodgers, but he's won his last 4 games, and he has 1 touchdown pass in each of those last 4 games. Is anybody sitting there right now saying, oh my gosh, his stats, though, they are so bad? Yeah, he's not Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he'll ever get to an MVP type level. But when you're winning, I don't care if you're throwing for 87 yards in the first half. It just doesn't matter to me.
At the end of the day, wins, I don't care. Everyone always wants to compare stuff, but if you think about it, in the NFL, any win is good. It's the NFL. It's the National Football League. You're watching the Sick Podcast, Steelers Crazy. I'm JY. This is Mike. Make sure that you check us out down there wherever you get your podcast. We're all over, and we're not going to stop. We're going to be going all off season, and we're going to get you ready for the draft. And then before you know it, OTAs will be here. And, we just bring the best personalities, the best reporters, and, the players. We had the Chris Wormley show. We hope, just want to send him some love. And make
We
sure that
thought we'd be talking
he's
about the
hitting.
draft now. We thought we'd be talking about
Yeah.
looking forward to OTAs now.
No.
Look at us. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
That's what Tomlin does. Here's a kiss for the haters.
He always blows a kiss for the haters, man. Kenny F. and Pickett.
Yeah, I love that. I had to be quiet because my kid was sleeping in the other room, and I actually stayed up and watched the game. I usually fall asleep at halftime, but I was just amped up, and I was like, just
I
it
hope
was just all,
Arya's
it was all
first
mannerisms.
words,
It wasn't. Yeah,
I hope her first words are not dada or dad or mom. I hope they're Kenny Pickett.
they might be. So let's shift to the Steelers and Browns. Obviously, the Browns are having the season that they're having. They're already eliminated. It doesn't matter. It's a rivalry, so I'm sure that they're going to try and knock us off. I don't see it. Deshaun Watson really hasn't showed any. I mean, it's just they're the Cleveland Browns at the end of the day, just like ex Steelers said, Juju. The Browns are the Browns, and I've witnessed it for more than a decade of them sucking. So I don't think that anything different, especially just with what's on the table for the Steelers. If you just want to preview the game a little bit, I'm not really, like you said and alluded to earlier, I know that we have to win the game. Like everyone wants to worry about the scenarios that we need to happen, but the Steelers do need to go in there. And I think the number one thing, and this is all I have to say, stop Nick Chubb. If they can stop Nick Chubb, because once you have the running game going, it could, open up some things. But, if that's their only goal in practice this week is just find ways to stop Nick Chubb.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. I think it's going to be very similar to the last.
He's a great running back. And that hurts me to say any Browns player is great, but he's a good.
I think the Browns roster is good. I think they're very similar to the last two teams the Steelers played, the Raiders and the Ravens, just in terms of overall team talent. So that tells me it's going to be a really close game, right? Because the Steelers pretty much trailed for 3.5 quarters against the Raiders and against the Ravens and then pulled it out at the end. So maybe Kenny Clutch is going to have to put another game-winning drive together.
Put it on a T-shirt.
Put on a T-shirt to propel the Steelers into the playoffs. Kenny F. and Pickett over there. I think that you're absolutely right. Stopping Nick Chubb is the key. They lost to this Browns team in week 3. Nick Chubb ran all over them. Their quarterback was Jacoby Brissett at the time. And even though Deshaun Watson hasn't played great, he's shaken off a lot of the rust, I still think he's an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett. He's got a lot of talent still. And, the guy obviously is going to hear showers of boos at Acrisure Stadium.
I think he's going to hear showers of boos the rest of his career.
No doubt about it. But they're a talented roster, good defense. Myles Garrett is still on the other side. You're right. Browns fans will hold the fact that they won one playoff game in the last 400 years.
Congratulations.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
And we still almost came back and won in that game. That's what's crazy.
It was like 45-0, and they came back and won. And then they lost to the Chiefs the next round. So they got a little taste of it. They're getting a little hungrier now, obviously. People are talking about firing Stefanski because this team didn't make the playoffs. We'll see what happens to him next year. But I'm with you. I think ultimately, somehow, some way, by the skin of their teeth, the same way Mike Tomlin has got it done for a long time, the same way Kenny Pickett has got it done in 2 consecutive games, the Steelers are going to find a way to win. They're at home. It reminds me of last year, Big Ben's last game, everything to play for. This was the second to last week of the regular season last year. And they beat the Browns on Monday Night Football. I think you're going to see a lot of similar emotion in that stadium, especially given the fact that there's a lot to play for. And everybody hates Deshaun Watson and loves Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and everyone just hates the Browns, period. It doesn't, again, you can throw the records out. This is a rivalry just because it's a train, a train ride. I guess you could take a train, but it's a bus ride. It's 2 hours. Cleveland's not far. I know me and you a few years back, maybe even more now, man, we're getting old, but we went to the Cavs opener and kind of see
great franchise. Shout out the Cavs, man. No disrespect.
Yeah, they are.
Donovan Mitchell's had 71 points.
Even though they beat my Bulls.
They did beat the Bulls. They're playing well. They're like the 3rd seed right now. It's neither here nor there.
That is probably the Cavs. The Cavs are probably the only Cleveland team. Just because
the Guardians too.
The Guardians. Yeah, for Dave. Shout out Dave. But I mean, just do you think we'll just end it on this? Will the Pittsburgh Steelers be in the playoffs?
I'm gonna say yes. And if you would have asked me this a handful of weeks ago, I would have fell out of my chair, and we probably would have ended this podcast for good because people would have been like, "This dude is nuts. He's an absolute moron. He just said the Steelers are going to make the playoffs."
He's sick.
He's sick. The Bills are going to beat the Patriots. I have no doubt about that. It's two things that need to happen. The Steelers need to beat the Browns, obviously, and the Jets need to beat the Dolphins. My biggest question, this is what we're going to find out on Sunday. Biggest question is, will the Jets care? Do they care? Their season is over. They have lost 4 in a row, I think 5 out of 6. Do they still care about going out there, playing hard for their coach, Robert Saleh, putting on a good performance, and beating the Dolphins? I would hope so, because if you're a Jets player, Dolphins are a rival in your division, AFC East.
Yeah. No one wants to lose, especially to end a season with a loss.
Of course.
I'm just trying to put some positive energy in there.
And listen to this, too. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa is not going to play. Their backup, Teddy Bridgewater, dislocated his finger, so he's not going to play. They're down to their third-string quarterback in Skylar Thompson. So the Jets are a favorite in this game, but motivation to me is going to be the key. And then ultimately, listen, at the end of the day, if the Jets win and the Bills win and the Steelers lose, they'll have nobody to blame but themselves. And I do think, like I said previously, it'll come down to the final minutes in the fourth quarter, just like the last few games. I'm taking Kenny Pickett and the Acrisure Stadium crowd over Deshaun Watson in that scenario. And yes, somehow, some freaking way, call it a Christmas miracle, a New Year's miracle. I don't know what the hell just happened, in all honesty, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make the playoffs. Wow.
All right, before we head out, final score, I will say the Steelers 17, the Browns 6.
Wow, I like that. That's a pretty big win in your estimation. I'm going to say higher scoring than the last couple games. We haven't seen much scoring at all. Defensive struggles the last few games. I think things open up a little bit in this contest. I'm going to say 24-21 Steelers. They haven't scored 3 touchdowns in a game. I think since Carolina, I think they scored 3 touchdowns 3 games ago, but I could be wrong. That's an explosion for a Matt Canada offense. So 24 points, Pat Freiermuth touchdown. Najee's going to keep pounding it. He crushed the Browns last year on Monday Night Football. The defense is going to make one big play against Deshaun Watson, and Kenny Pickett is going to lead another big fourth quarter drive to put them up, seal the deal, maybe put them up 10 points and win this thing, and then hope the Jets can finish off the Dolphins.
All right, well, there you have it. This is another Steelers Crazy Sick podcast, and I guess, according to Mike, that we'll be back next week for a playoff edition. So here we go, Steelers, man. We're praying.
We'll be back either way.
We're praying for you 3.
Yes, sir.
And man, just happy to be here. Just happy to be here. That's all. Shout out to our guys Sammy and Anella over there at the Sick team. We're ready and geared up for a big 2023. Yes, and just remember, man, there ain't no one working harder than us. Sick podcast, Steeler Crazy. Here we go, Steelers. We'll see you next week for the playoff edition. Out.
Shout out 3.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.